Jai Shri Ram. We're going to talk about mind, body, and soul, and gradually talk about how nutrition is connected with mind, body, and soul, and how do we actually maintain our nutrition with mind, body, and soul. The first thing which I want to talk about is that the difference between mind and brain. Both are two different entities. Mind and brain are completely different, though they are linked to each other. Brain is just a communication bridge between your body and mind, whereas mind is invisible and intangible. Our senses cannot detect the existence of mind, and that's the major difference between mind and brain. Let me take you further. Human mind is basically composed of 4 different things made up of intangible matter. They are also known as mental bodies. They are intelligence, intellect, samskara, and chitta. Let's talk about the intelligence first. Intelligence works by remembering your past and imagines your future. So, one example is when we desire to do something out of guilt, or when we want to redeem our mistakes which we did in our past. So, when we do things out of such desires, it is definitely because of our intelligence. Our intelligence has this idea of creating something whole and complete, which is a combination of past and perfect future attached to it, with a wonderful present. Yeah, but unfortunately the complete never happens with the intelligence. Your intelligence has this idea of creating something whole and complete with a present having a wonderful past and a perfect future attached to it. Unfortunately it doesn't work out like that. So the complete within quotes never happens with intelligence. Next comes the intellect. Your intellect is like far better than intelligence, because it believes that it can never become complete and whole. It believes that if there is something that has to be complete, then it would be made up of n number of characters, wherein each of those characters are positioned at an ideal distance from the main character. So say your intellect wants you to say that your intellect wants your character become complete. So the intellect attempts and builds new relationships with other characters. It also tries to perfect the existing relationship of an individual. Your intellect just thinks like this. Say, your intellect just says that if I'm going to bring in characters like friends, foe, etc. into your life, your character becomes complete and whole. It just tries to push some characters from your life and some characters close to your life, and say the intellect at a point is not able to alter the distance, you are done. It just desires to change the individual's behavior in all possible ways it can. Where does all of these changes start? Your intellect actually accomplishes its task by just sharing thoughts, things and times with other characters. Basically it's called gossiping. I don't want to elaborate further. We can actually make it with simple words. Your intellect asks you to gossip with other people about other people. I'll talk about my close friend to one more person. I'll say that, okay, this person told me so and so, what is your opinion on it? Doesn't it sound stupid? Your intellect works in such a way that you start gossiping to other people. You start gossiping about other people. You start gossiping about people around you when they are not there. And that's when all of these things like backstabbing happen. So your intellect says, you start sharing thoughts, things and time with other characters. So basically start gossiping, dude, you will change your character. To just sum it up, for intellect, family, friends, community, tribe, village, town, class, race, kingdom, etc., etc., etc. are fixed boundary lines drawn by the intellect. Let's see about samskara now. Samskara is something which allows an individual to follow a routine pattern in their life. For example, some of us have this habit of early rising, followed by exercise and rituals as a pattern of life. And some individuals follow this pattern while the others follow a pattern of waking up late, followed by doing their professional work, etc. So, though the day's routine pattern varies with every individual, it's significant that every individual works in some or the other routine, whether they are aware or not, they are actually working in some or the other routine. So, doesn't this sound interesting? What do you think would be the reason behind every individual following a routine in their life? Yes, that's definitely samskara which aids an individual in following a routine in his or her life. It tries to complete the character of an individual by making them believe whatever is whole, complete, consistent, orderly fashioned, predictable, systematic, certain, uniform and perchance unchanging. Samskara actually tries to do everything that can make an individual closer to the idea of whole, complete in quotes. It yearns to bring an order and consistency into an individual's life. For example, say some of us like following rules, rituals and tradition over a dubious and convoluted path to pursue the truth. So these kind of people generally believe in hell, heaven, good and bad, virtue and sin, etc. And a best example of such a person is me. I'm that sort of a character. That's how my samskara has trained me, They try to fit themselves into a framework within which they should spend their lives in a comfortable manner. But we have to understand one thing here. Nothing is constant about it. Every individual has two images. One is where you reflect upon yourself, and the other image where you reflect upon the views of others around you on you. You try to reflect the views of others on you. That's the second image. Okay, let me just give you an example. I started preaching way back in the year 2017, and people have these views on me, like they basically treat me like an 80-year-old, though I'm still in my 20s. They think that I'm a God-sent person and every word that I utter is God's words, which I still don't get into my head. So my samskara says, you have a wonderful thing, like people appreciate you, people just believe you to be a God-sent messenger, and people just say that you're so blessed. You say your parents are so blessed. I don't know what sort of penance or sacrifice did your parents do to just get a child like this. And my samskara says, see, these are the viewpoints that people around you have. So that's when my intellect intervenes and says, you better stay away from society for some time. I said, what? What are you talking about? I said, yes, that's what I'm talking about. And my intellect basically says, you better stay away from society, don't mingle with anybody, you will be alone only. That's when you can like achieve great heights and all. I'm like, I'm already alone. You already made me like a person who doesn't have any friends. I seriously don't mingle with any of my relatives and I'm already all alone. You better be single only forever. I said, fine. That will also will do good. When your intellect actually tries to accept everything whatever samskara says, you really have to go with it. You just cannot go beyond it. It says you cannot do it, you cannot. I am here only to control you. Now, how will you go beyond me? See, you have 4 people to control you within yourself. So, the next thing that we will be discussing about is Chitta. Chitta is one of the 4 aspects of consciousness, or rather say it is a part of the 4 mental bodies that we were discussing earlier. So, if you look at Chitta, the aspect of Chitta is that it allows for subjectivity, one's emotional reaction affected by what it sees and its own nature. For instance, say there is a bitter fruit in front of you and you are actually tasting it. So what's the perception that you get after tasting that bitter fruit? It's that it's going to be negative, right? You don't say that it's so sweet after tasting the bitter fruit, right? So that's how your Chitta actually functions. And when it comes to like Yoga Sutras, there are so many translations of the Yoga Sutras where they say Chitta is sometimes defined as a mind stuff or the lower mind. Chitta behaves right opposite to Samskara. Samskara is something which tells you to follow the rules and regulations, follow a pattern, a routine in your day-to-day life. But then Chitta says, no, I want things to happen in a random manner. I am interested in chaos. So say you have a set of rules laid down in front of you for following a particular stuff. And that's when Chitta pops up and says, no, why should I ever follow these rules? Why don't I just break the rules? Why don't I do things which are risky? Why don't I do reckless things in my life instead of following such rules and doing it right? So that's all about chitta. So to just sum up, human mind and brain are completely different. Brain is just a communication bridge between your body and mind. Your human mind is made up of four mental bodies known as intelligence, intellect, samskara and chitta. Yeah, that's what we saw. And then we had seen how intelligence works, how intellect works, and how samskara and chitta works. Yeah. So samskara and chitta together, if they work in balance, if they are in harmony, you lead a beautiful life when compared to others. For a person whose samskara and chitta are working in balance, they have a peaceful and beautiful life. The thing is, we have forgotten, or we have this misconception that chitta is something which works only once in a while, and that it doesn't even exist at all. It is not that way. Chitta actually exists, and it's not that it works once in a while. It works every time you try to get something emotional. Yeah. When you do something positive, you immediately get that thought of positive feel within you, right? And when you do something negative, you end up getting a feel which is negative. So, where are these feelings coming from? They are arising because of chitta. Chitta is the inner mind, or say lower mind, or it's a mind stuff which says or which provides you with these negative and positive feeling. The next thing we're going to see is about body and then the soul. We were seeing about mind all these time, and now we're going to see about body. So what is body? Body is something which is made up of 5 elements: air, water, fire, earth, space, right? So these elements are known as Pancha Mahabhutas. When it comes to Ayurveda, these Pancha Mahabhutas work together in different ways to create 3 basic types of energies called doshas in the human body. And there are 3 types of dosha. Okay, one is Vadam, and then Pitta, Kapham. When you look at Vadam, it's a combination of air and space. Air and space combine to form this Vata dosha. So basically it controls all aspects of our body movements, inside and out, including muscle movement, movement of food through our digestive tract, movement of blood through our blood vessels, etc. When it comes to Pitta, Pitta dosha consists of Agni elements, which is fire. So it governs digestion, biotransformation of digested food and metabolism. The seats of Pitta are in the digestive system, brain, lymph, liver, spleen, skin, eyes and blood. When it comes to Kapha, the Kapham actually consists of earth and water. We would say like this, say the Vata dosha has air and space as its elements, okay? And when it comes to Pitta, the elements are fire and a bit of water. When it comes to Kabham, the elements are earth and rest of the water. So hence Kabha dosha, people who are having Kabha dosha face this problem of cold, fever and other stuff, yeah. So the Kapha dosha therefore represents structure and the oily factors of our body, including the fat tissue, mucus secretion, lubricating fluids, etc. So when it comes to Ayurveda, you completely deal with this tridosha. The Panchamahabhutas serve as the foundation for all forms of treatment in Ayurveda. So it is a valuable resource for the physicians to help them detect and treat illness of the mind and body successfully. Right, so your body is made up of Panchamahabhutas, the 5 elements of nature. The body and soul are not one and the same, they are totally different. A body is a vehicle which your soul takes to travel or to proceed in this journey of life. So, body is something which is temporary, body is something which is perishable. So, when it comes to soul, when you talk about the soul, the aura and everything, I remember my faculty telling the class the other day that when you want any disease to enter, it has to pass through the aura and then enter your soul. Any disease for that matter, it has to pass through the aura and then enter your soul. That's how it functions. Yeah. So yes, coming back. So body is made up of 5 elements of nature. For you to survive, you need food, right? Okay. So before I get into the intricate details of nutrition, let me just touch upon the soul also. When you talk about soul, we have been using this letter called I very frequently, right? I did this, I own this car is mine, right? So much of I's. What is this I actually? Not the body, it's the soul. I am so and so. When we actually introduce ourselves, say, I am Ram. So you typically say, I am Ram. So I is actually denoting the soul, and the name that you keep, it can be any name. It can be Krishna or Rama, or it can be Badri, it can be anything for that matter. When you keep those names are actually not for your soul, and those names are for your body. When I call someone with the name Ram, when I call the name Ram, it actually is like I am calling their body and not their soul, because I am not going to call somebody called, hey soul, how are you, right? We won't go and ask them like that. But actually that's the way we are supposed to ask, because we are all just souls. We are not the bodies, you know. And we have been under this mystic illusion that I am the body. We are no longer the body, we are just the soul. Soul has the ability to travel beyond space and time. It doesn't have any boundaries with respect to space and time. See, till you realize that you are a soul, you will keep attaching yourself with this materialistic world by showing all sorts of emotions around you. That's how a thing functions. So, the letter I denotes the soul. So, what is this soul? I have no clue about the soul. Okay. Soul is something which is invisible. It doesn't have any death, it doesn't have any birth, it is different from the body. And your soul has something called aura. I remember one of my faculties telling in a lecture that if you say that you have to get any disease, first the disease has to enter your aura and then your soul. So the thing is, soul never gets affected. Soul never gets affected is what I mean. Soul appears to get affected because it is put into this body. Yeah. The first thing you will have to understand is I refers to the soul and not the body. When I call somebody with the name Rama or Krishna or Badri or whatever it is, I am actually calling the body and not the soul. The soul is completely different from the body. We will have to understand that at first point. It's too difficult to understand or digest it at one go. But it's the truth, you know, the mystic truth that we have. Okay, so This is the first truth which we'll have to learn. Soul is something which has its aura and everything along with it. As I mentioned earlier, soul doesn't have death, soul doesn't have birth, soul doesn't have any sorrows, soul doesn't have any happiness. Soul basically doesn't show any emotions, Yeah, that's quite difficult to understand because we've been under this myth stating I am the body. That's what we used to call as Dehatma Abhimanam. You keep thinking that you are the body. Till the point that you keep thinking that you are the body, you will not be able to come out of this materialistic world at all. That's the way it functions. You should have attachment, but that attachment should be free from 9 emotions: anger, pity, sorrow, joy, sort of 9 emotions. If you are having an attachment without these 9 emotions, then that sort of an attachment is called as a pure attachment, and when you develop that pure attachment, you will notice that your chitta and samskara are actually working in balance. Only when they both don't work in balance, when the chitta and samskara are not in balance, you will still be wandering in this materialistic life. You will still keep thinking that all of these things around me belongs to me. So basically the letter I denotes the soul. Okay, so the next thing is, why does the soul have to take this body? The thing is, the soul takes this body as a carrier for its journey to proceed. Say somebody comes home and you're going to serve them juice or something. So how do you take the juice? In your palms, is it? You just pour 2 to 3 drops in the palm and then you go and give it to them? No, right? You pour the juice into a glass and then you take it to your guest. It's not only in the case of guests, even if we are going to drink that juice, it's going to be the same scenario. Yeah, it's going to be the same thing. Even if I want to drink the juice, I will actually pour the juice into a glass or a tumbler or a cup and then drink that. So I don't carry my juice in my palm and I don't drink it like that. Do we? No, right? So similarly, soul needs a carrier to continue its journey. A soul cannot roam about without a carrier, without a container in this world, which is bounded by the space and time. The next thing is, now why do we have this assumption called I am the body? I refers to soul. So the soul itself is body, right? And the body itself is soul. Why do we have that sort of assumption? I can give you one example. Say there is a green color water bottle in front of you, and the water bottle is completely filled with water. So the first question I am going to ask you is the water colorless or it has color beneath? It's colorless, right? So the water is colorless, right? If I am going to fill a green color bottle with water, and now when you look at the water from outside, how does that appear? It appears as though the water is green in color, right? I have a water bottle in front of me, and I know the water is completely filled in it. Yeah, and I know in prior that the water is colorless, but when I am going to see the water bottle from a distance, say that water bottle is being placed on my table, and when I see it from outside, it appears as though the water itself is in green color, right? So that's how a soul is also being seen. The soul, though it has taken this body as a carrier, till we do this self-realization, we will not come to know that soul and body are different. See, only when I open the green color water bottle and start drinking water that I realize that the water is colorless. Right? Similarly, only when I start doing self-analysis that I realize soul is completely different from the body, they are not one and same. So only when we realize that we are souls are we able to project ourselves in a different perspective, in a different way. I have heard my elders say that body itself is a big disease. So why would I ever bother about some disease which is going to affect my body? When I say my body itself is a big disease, I will not even be bothered about other diseases which is going to affect my body, because when I say my body itself is a disease and that body is getting a disease, it's not going to affect me in any way. Because I am telling you the body itself is a disease. So once you leave the body, you won't have any diseases affecting you. This is the basic concept of Sanatana Dharma. Basic concept. Since the body itself is a disease, the body itself is a disease. With this disease only, you have been running your 80 years and 90 years of life. Okay, so that's what a soul is all about, and a soul and body are completely different. But when it comes to mind, body and soul, all of them are linked together. They are linked together. Why is nutrition important with respect to mind, body and soul is what we're going to talk next. So keep watching, subscribe to the YouTube channel to get more updates on it, and we'll meet in our next session where we discuss the link between nutrition and mind, body and soul. Until then, stay safe. If possible, keep even other people safe around you.